Hi there and welcome back to another video. My name is Monica of Millie and Monica, and I am a full-time reseller on Poshmark and eBay, and today I am answering your questions. And so this is a Q&A video. If you are at all interested in reseller related content, selling clothing online, and of course making money online, please consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already, and of course give this video a thumbs up. It really helps me out here on YouTube. And so yes, I am answering your questions. I've done a couple other of these Q&A type videos, and I'll definitely link them because I will refer to a couple of them as well, as some of these questions have been answered over there, and I don't want to repeat myself too much for those of you who have been around for a while. So this first question I absolutely love. It's a very kind of difficult and tricky question. I'm going to do my best to answer it. And it's actually a pretty big misconception here in the reseller influencer space and world. So I'm hoping to shed some light on it. And so the first question is, do you think you could still make a full-time income from reselling alone without supplementing on social media / YouTube? And the answer is yes. Now, this may be different for other YouTubers in this space, but I'm going to shed some light on my own personal experience and my own personal income for you. So I have a relatively small channel. Right now, as you're watching this, as it's being filmed, I have about 5,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which may seem like a lot to some of you, but it's actually kind of small, especially in the world of YouTube and Google AdSense and making money from videos. So let's see, I was monetized in August, so it's now February. I got monetized in August, and that was really exciting, but I only made, I think, $100 that first month in Google AdSense. Now, $100 is awesome, and it's really fun and exciting, and I worked super hard for that money, but that's not going to pay my bills. And so, and it actually takes quite a while to even receive that money because YouTube works like a month behind. So, and there was other things that factored into when YouTube actually paid me. I did not receive my actual first YouTube payment until December. So I was monetized in August, didn't receive my first YouTube payment until December. That's a pretty long stretch of time that I was making a lot of videos and not actually making any money. So, you know, take that into consideration. There were some reasons for that. Google AdSense has to verify your address. Their first piece of like PIN number that they sent me was lost, so I had to wait an amount of time before it could be resent to me, and that definitely delayed payment. Now, as I mentioned, my first month I made about $100 in Google AdSense money. The second month I made a little over $200, and I think it was around that $250 mark my third month. And then into my fourth month, I think I made around $400. And for 2 months in a row, I made just under $600, but I really had to push and push and push to make $600. And what I mean by that is I had to make like 2 to 3 videos a week, and that was a lot of time. And honestly, I felt pretty burnt out. So this month, we're in February. It's actually almost the end of February, and I haven't made that much money on YouTube this month. I haven't even made $400 this month on YouTube because I haven't made as many videos. So, moral of the story is, I don't make that much here on YouTube, although it may sound like, oh, you've made almost $600 one month. That's awesome. Yeah, it is awesome, but that money doesn't pay my bills, and I've actually not used any YouTube money to pay my bills. All of my YouTube earnings are going into a savings account, and I haven't yet touched that money. I'm not using it right now. So could I make a full-time income without supplementing? Of course, because I do it every single month. Poshmark and eBay are currently paying my bills. Supplemental stuff is not. So YouTube is not paying my bills. And then social media in general, I just want to touch on that a little bit because I do have an Instagram. I did reach that 10K mark several months ago, and then I stopped posting on Instagram. And it was about the time that YouTube started to take off for me that I kind of stopped posting on Instagram. I found that Instagram didn't bring me a whole lot of joy. It actually really bogged me down, and I really enjoy being here on YouTube. I enjoy this experience. I enjoy making content. I enjoy the editing process. That really just inspires me to want to make more content. I like connecting with you here on YouTube versus on Instagram. I just don't really enjoy that kind of high pace Instagram experience where I feel like I have to respond within seconds of someone commenting or messaging, and that really stresses me out actually. So I've kind of left the Instagram world. I would like to dive back in at some point. I just haven't quite figured out how to balance, you know, Poshmark, eBay, YouTube, Instagram. Like, I haven't figured out that balance. And so hopefully one day I will. And another way that I do make money, so I guess I'm kind of talking about my income streams now. This is very, very new. I've yet to receive payment for this. So again, this is not supporting me or paying my bills at all. And that is with the Amazon influencer. And that is just where you have a store. I have my Amazon store in which I have linked products that I use. And some of you have maybe clicked on some of those links, and if you purchase anything through those links, then I earn a small portion, like usually cents, like not whole dollars. And so, I mean, that does add up, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But again, it's not something that's paying my bills. It's something that's very new to me, and so I have yet to receive actual payment for any of those clicks and any of those purchases. So my answer to that question is yes, I could definitely still make a full-time income with reselling because I do every single month. Next question is, let's see, how did you get into reselling? I believe you were a teacher. Just curious how that transitioned into full-time reselling. So how did I get into reselling? I'm going to answer that briefly. And I got into reselling when I lived in Seattle. I only lived in Seattle for 3 years, and that has now been about 3 years ago. So when I was living in Seattle and getting about ready to move from Seattle to Minnesota, I had a very large collection of vintage clothing. A lot of the clothing I knew I would not be wearing here in Minnesota. The weather and climate is very different. And I didn't want to move at all. So I started looking for ways to sell it. I tried selling it on Instagram. That didn't work for me. And so I turned to Poshmark and had great success. And of course, as you all know, if you sold anything online, it's very addicting. And I loved the process. I loved the experience I was having. And so I continued, and then it led to, of course, transitioning from teaching to full-time reselling. And the second part of that question, I'm actually going to refer you to another video, my first Q&A video, which I'll link above and down below, because that video I do actually talk about the whole process of my transition from teaching to reselling, and just go back and watch that video if you're curious. Next is, at what point did you see your sales start to become significant? How many followers did you have just starting? And it says, just starting out and trying to build my follower numbers. Thanks. Now, I'm going to answer this in a couple different ways because I'm not quite sure exactly what we're referring to. But at what point did I see sales start to become significant is when I started listing consistently and sharing my own closet consistently. So it has been over 3 years since I first started selling on Poshmark. And in the beginning, like, I just listed a few things when I had time. And I wasn't on social media. I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't getting tips from YouTube. I was just figuring things out on my own. And what I quickly learned is that the more I listed, the more I sold. And then at one point, I don't remember what triggered it, but I realized that if I shared, I think it was parties. I remember sharing some items to parties, and then I was getting likes and I was getting offers. And I was like, wow, if I share my items more, I get more sales. And so that's kind of what really triggered more sales, or when I started to see more significant sales, is when I started listing more and when I started sharing my own closet, because I don't think it's kind of a given if someone's completely new to Poshmark and not on any social media. Like, I think it's kind of hard to know that you need to share. And how many followers did I have in the beginning? I don't know, not very many. And I think they're referring to how many followers did I have on Poshmark. Definitely not very many. I don't think followers on Poshmark truly matters. I truly don't see a difference in sales based on my follower count on Poshmark. Now, is this person referring to how many followers did I have on Instagram or YouTube? I'm not quite sure, but again, I don't really see a difference. in that, because especially on Instagram, I wasn't advertising my closet. I wasn't really showing that many items that I was trying to sell. I know that some people that watch my hauls do purchase some items, but it's not a significant amount at all to make a big difference. So that's kind of what I have to say on that. And here's the next one. On average, how many sales per day do you have on Poshmark, and how many listings do you put up daily? Okay, so as far as how many listings do I put up daily, I do talk about that in my Poshmark strategy video, which I'll link up above and down below. But I will kind of repeat some of the same information. I guess, how many listings do I put up daily? I would say between 10 and 20, 5 to 7 days a week. It does vary. Again, go back and watch that other video because I talk about it more in depth. On average, how many sales per day do I have? On average, like if you actually like do sales divided by number of days, I would say it's around that 7 to 8 mark. However, there are definitely seasons where it's less. And currently, I'm doing my average on Poshmark and eBay. I guess I'm going to make this answer probably more complicated than it needs to be. My average Poshmark sales per day before eBay was 7 to 8, and it's currently about 7 to 8, which is really interesting. What I have noticed is the more time I put into cross-listing and the more time I put into just putting stuff on eBay, the less sales I have on Poshmark. That is just what I've noticed over the course of the last 3 months. Now, that's not to say that anything particular about either platform. I'm not quite sure if it's literally just because I'm spending less time on Poshmark and more time on eBay. It's probably the case. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with what I'm seeing and the growth that I'm seeing on eBay. It's very promising, and I'm not going to go, I'm not going to stop selling on eBay because I have seen my Poshmark sales kind of slow down. And it's probably just a season, and I'm sure that will change at some point. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. So my average is still that 7 to 8. Okay, so next is, do you run your Poshmark and eBay business alone, or do you have an assistant that shares your closet or helps you with photos? I know this is kind of confusing because my name is Milly and Monica. And if you've been watching for a while, in several of my videos, I do mention that Milly isn't actually a person. Milly is the dress form or the mannequin. I like calling her Milly the mannequin because I like the ring of it, the sound of it. It's just super fun to me. So no, I do not have a partner. I do not have an assistant. It is just me. My husband really doesn't help me at all. He doesn't have time. And so it is just me. And in the future, that's not to say that I wouldn't consider hiring. I have had a VA in the past, but I don't currently, and I haven't for several months. So in the future, I would definitely consider hiring. It just would have to be the right person at the right time, etc. Let's see. And then this is a multi-part question. Do you have a daily or weekly schedule you follow? Not necessarily. I kind of have a routine. I am a person of routine. I like waking up at the same type of time in the morning. So between like 5 a.m. and 6:30 is kind of when I wake up in the morning. And then I, share my closet, send offers, put up some listings on either Poshmark or eBay, depending where I can list at that particular moment. Maybe do some bookkeeping. And then, if that works out that day, I might go to the gym, which I've been really enjoying getting back into a regular gym routine. And then I come back home and get kind of myself situated for the day, as in showered and dressed and put together, because that's really important to me. And from there, I start, steaming, photographing, measuring, and doing more listing, and it just kind of continues that way. Now, there's certainly days that I will go sourcing because that's important and part of the job as well. But I don't necessarily source on a particular day, same day of the week, because I source when I need new inventory. So if I don't need new inventory on a Tuesday, then I'm not going to go on a Tuesday. And yeah, and then the last part of this question is, do you prefer to go sourcing alone or when you go thrifting, or take a friend with you. Both. I really love and enjoy going with other people and sourcing with other people, and I also really enjoy thrifting or sourcing by myself. I am a true introvert. I love and enjoy alone time, and I do really well in that type of space and just kind of diving in and, focusing on what's in front of me. But it's definitely can be more fun with a friend because you get that really positive energy flowing. And of course, you might find something that, you don't necessarily want, but then I want it, or vice versa. So that's always fun and exciting too. Okay, next question. On Poshmark, when someone adds an item from your closet to their bundle, what do you do? So if someone starts making a bundle, this happens a lot. Someone will add like an item to a bundle, and maybe they just kind of disappear. At a certain point, depending on when I'm on the app and what's going on, I will send them just a little message, like, hi, do you have any questions? Or feel free to send me any questions. Thanks for shopping. And then I send them a discount on that item. Now, when I'm going into their bundle, if I see that they've actually liked other items as well, I might add those other items to the bundle. Again, send them a message and offer them a discount. And if they accept, they accept. If they don't, they don't. If they ask a question, I answer it, and I just keep moving on. Oftentimes you get ghosted, and that is completely fine. The more offers you send, the more likely you're going to make a sale. So just keep trying it and see what happens. Okay, so let's see. This one is very eBay specific. So this person saw my eBay video, and they wanted to know if eBay sends you a shipping label. No, they don't. You do have to go into eBay and purchase a label. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend getting yourself a scale. I have one here. It's linked in my Amazon store down below. But really, any shipping scale is great, because if you have to take it to the post office to get weighed and buy your label there, which you can do, you just need to add in your tracking info. If you do it that route, it's going to cost you more. So eBay has special rates for shipping, and it's cheaper through eBay and through PayPal, or if you want to use Pirate Ship. Those are going to be all cheaper options than going to the post office. So get a scale. That's my number one tip for that. Next is, do you use a specific filter so all your items in your closet look the same? And if so, what's the process? Yes and no. So I always photograph, again, going back to that routine, that I am a creature of habit and routine. I photograph most generally during the same time frame every single day, and that is during the afternoon natural light time. So because I'm photographing during that time, a lot of my photos will look the same. Now, if it's cloudy, or maybe I'm photographing an hour later into the afternoon, my photos might look slightly different just because of the lighting changing outside. Now, so I don't edit anything other than the cover photo. So the photo that people see when they're scrolling, I slightly edit that one photo. And usually that's a modeled photo. And so I will use an app called A Color Story. Now, there are several others. I know many, many resellers use Pick, Tap, Go, I believe is the name of that app, but I've never used it. I've never looked into it. I have had the app A Color Story forever. Before I was ever selling on Instagram, I had that app, and I just love it. I've continued to use it. Anyway, I adjust the brightness slightly, and I adjust the contrast slightly, just a little bit, to make the image really pop and look clear and bright. And I find that by adjusting only the brightness and the contrast, I'm not skewing truly the actual item. Another reason why I only adjust the first photo is so that all the other photos, they can see exactly what it looks like without any editing. So that is what the photo looks like in natural daylight without editing. That's my process. That's how I go about it. And I do feel like a lot of my items, the photos do look very similar because I'm using similar lighting and I'm using similar everything else. Sometimes, again, they'll vary just due to the lighting difference, or sometimes different colored items will skew kind of the area and what the overall photo looks like. But yeah. So next is, let's see here. How many active listings do you have? And I talk about this often in several of my videos. I talk about this. I currently have right now, I think 1,040-ish items. I usually keep around the 1,000 mark. It might fluctuate and go down to 960, but you know, that's usually the lowest. And then, you know, I think the highest I've ever had is 1,100. If you've watched my Poshmark office tour, which again, I'll link that video down below as well, you can actually see how I store these items in my spare bedroom here that I'm in right now filming. This is the only spare bedroom that I have, and it's a relatively, you know, small, the average size spare bedroom. I don't have any other room to store any other inventory in my home or my, you know, in my space. So this is it. I really can't go over that 1,100 mark. I've been there. It's the most I can keep in this room. So yes, if you're curious on how I store, go back and watch that video. And then the second part of this last question here from YouTube questions was, which anthropology pieces are you still picking up? Well, I guess this depends what I find. So with anthropology, just like most everything else that I pick up, I'm basing my decision on several different things. And the first, of course, being, you know, condition. Is it in good condition? If not, I really don't want it. And next, of course, is it on trend? Is it a trendy piece? Do I even like the piece? And of course, then I'm looking at price. So if it's in really good condition and it's a really trendy piece, but the price is way too high, I'm probably not going to buy it. So just like any other brand or piece, it just depends on those things. So now those are the questions that I got from YouTube, but I also took some questions from Instagram. So I'm going to go through as many of those as I can here. It looks like I'm running a little short on time and my camera will cut me off and tell me I can't film anymore. So I'm going to answer again what I can and then just end the video at that point. But this next question is, how have your sales been with the increase in shipping? I haven't had a sale in weeks. Now, I will say that I don't think it's affected my sales, but I know that my sales have slowed down a little bit, and that's my own fault. A couple weeks ago, I had family in town, and I was really busy, you know, cleaning my house and making sure I could actually use my posh room as a guest room. So I had a lot on my plate, and I definitely didn't get as many items listed as I should have, and that slowed down my sales. I don't think it was the shipping increase, but you never know. Okay, so next is, when do you number the inventory, give it a bin number when listing or recording? So if you, again, watched my Poshmark office tour, you know that I keep many of my items in bins, and they have, each bin has kind of an inventory like number range. So I keep like 1 through 40 in a bin, 41 through 80 in a bin. So she is referring to like, when do I assign it that number and where it's going to go? So for most of my items, if it's going into a bin and not hanging in a closet, I assign the number when I measure the item. And this is because when I'm listing the item, if I don't have an inventory number, then I don't want to list it because I don't want to sell it and then not know where it is. So I know some people like list everything and they go back in later and add their inventory system when they have it. And that doesn't work for me. I want to have the measurements and the inventory number all at the same time, so when I'm listing, I have all the information I need. Next is, what advice do you have for part-time poshers? So, you know, once upon a time I was a part-time posher, and my best advice would be list as consistently as you can, and that is, I guess, my advice for anyone. So if you're part-time and you photograph like 50 items on the weekend, try to list like a few of those items every day during the week. So, you know, or maybe at least 5 days of the week. So if you photograph 50 on Sunday, try to list 10 items Monday through Friday. And then my other piece of advice would be, and I kind of touched on this earlier, show your own items just to get them seen in this search. And let's see, do you notice more sales when you have a certain range of inventory, like 100 to 200 active, etc.? Yes and no. I think, again, it really depends on, are you listing consistently? Because even though I have over 1,000 items, when I'm not listing consistently, my sales slow down. However, on the flip side of it, I definitely know I, of course, have more sales now at 1,000 items than I did when I had 500 items. So, you know, it's really, there's no magic number there, but I would just say play around, continue to list and list and list. And what do you struggle the most with as a reseller? And there's a lot of things I struggle with. And I guess in different like categories, there's things I struggle with. So I think one thing that I've definitely gotten better at over, my time reselling is, but I still struggle with, is bookkeeping. I don't necessarily love spreadsheets. I don't necessarily love doing the task of bookkeeping, because for me, it doesn't push me ahead, I guess. Like, the more I list, the more I sell, right? If I don't photograph, I can't list anything. But bookkeeping is just kind of boring, and it's not exactly the thing that I want to do, because I don't always feel like it pushes my sales. But it is important, and as I've learned through a couple of tax seasons, it is so important to stay on top of your bookkeeping, because it makes your life so much easier. I'm not going to go into tax advice. Get a CPA. They're very, very helpful. But yeah, stay on top of your bookkeeping. And that has been a struggle for me in the past. But like I said, I'm getting better, and I'm continuing to grow in that area. Another thing that I struggle with is obviously just time management. There are so many different hats that you wear as a reseller. You do all of the jobs unless you hire someone, which I haven't. And I find that oftentimes time management can be tricky. I often am like, ooh, because I work from home, oh, I need to change the laundry. Oh, now I need to do the dishes, and take that 20-minute, 30-minute break, and then I'm finding myself not doing things that I should be doing for my business. So I guess in that sense, maybe it would be nice to have an office space outside of my home, because I could just focus instead of getting distracted with little things like taking the dog outside, etc. So time management can definitely be a struggle. I, again, have gotten better at it. In the past, when I first started reselling, I would often stay up till like midnight, working. I would get up early and stay up till midnight trying to get everything done. And I do know that over the course of time, like, I have gotten better at managing myself and better at managing my time so that I can go to bed at a decent hour. But that's still a struggle. And then I guess the last thing that's truly a struggle for me is, I guess, falling into that comparison trap. I am not really a competitive person. I wouldn't say that, but I do hold myself to very high standards. And when I see that, maybe I'm falling behind in a certain area, or maybe I'm not doing as much as it looks like so-and-so is doing, then, I do fall into that comparison trap. So I really try not to, but that's something I know I have to work on. And I really have to talk myself into a better headspace when I get into moments like that. So, and then the last question that I'm going to go over is a really fun one. And it says the question is like your best or favorite find ever. So I don't know that this is like necessarily my best find ever, but it's definitely one of my favorites. So this sweater was found back in Seattle, and it's definitely one of my absolute favorites. And it was this red knit sheep sweater. So it had white sheeps all across it and then one black sheep. I thought this was the absolute coolest sweater when I found it. I remember picking it up for an amazing deal. I think it was like $3.99, or $4.99, something ridiculously awesome. And I remember like even wearing it as a teacher in the classroom, and at some point I knew I just wanted to part with it. And I don't remember when, I was just kind of surfing the web. I remember coming across a image of Princess Diana actually wearing a very similar sweater to it. She had white sheep on it and one black sheep. And although mine was slightly different, the sleeves were different, and I think the back was too, it was so close. It's, a replica of some sort of it, that I just knew I probably should sell it and let it go on to its next home because it was so amazing and I truly wasn't wearing it. So I listed it really high, I think around that $100 mark. And maybe I'd lowered the price once. And I remember it selling full price, or for full asking price, at that $100 mark. And I was just like absolutely in shock and awe and just so excited because this amazing vintage sweater, that looked like one that Princess Diana had worn, sold on Poshmark. And that was probably my favorite find and favorite sale yet to this date, even though I've had other really great sales as well. But yeah, so if I didn't answer any of your questions, I will try to maybe do a follow-up to this. You can leave any more questions down below. But I hope you enjoyed hearing and learning more about me and my business. And of course, as always, I'll see you next time.